to everyone. As I mentioned, Roland, I will keep my video on briefly, just to confirm that it is me and not an artificial intelligent voice that's speaking to you during this morning session. Welcome to everybody who's joined the call, and I want to appreciate Roland and Derek and Rosemary, who were instrumental in inviting me to join you this morning. I'd also like to appreciate Enterprise Uganda for starting this series at a time when we all thought the world had ended in 2020. And I'm reminded of a speech given by Dr. Martin Luther King in 1959. It was entitled "Remaining Awake During a Revolution." And it is so appropriate that we get time to listen to that speech, because this is what we're speaking about today. Are we staying awake during the revolution? For many years, there's a friend of mine who was part of a team that had special hire taxis at Grand Imperial Hotel. I'm sure you've all seen or know of them. These guys had about 8 parking slots in front of the hotel opposite Bank of Uganda. And they charged, I think, about 150,000 to join the group. And there was a monthly fee of another 150,000. And every morning they would park their cars there and gossip and chat and just watch the street as they waited for customers to come. The leader of the group, of the chairman of that taxi run, was an old guy called Haji, who everybody called Haji, and Haji had been there for years. Recently, I met Haji. He was a tail shadow of himself. He had a whole list of frustrations. That taxi rank that had over 8 cars or so is now down to 2 or 3. Most of the drivers have moved on. These guys did not stay awake during the revolution of technology. Right next to them, some young Uber guy is picking up the fare that could have walked to this car. Technology that shows you how much you're going to pay for your fare, not the traditional negotiation. So this team of people didn't realize that the world was changing. And so when you see some of them still parked at some of these places, you wonder what they're thinking. I took an Uber from Entebbe Airport. The guy drove into the airport. These airport cars are there. But people are so used to calling an Uber or a Bolt, and the guys drive in and pick you up, and under their noses, they take you away. I want that story to be in your minds as I speak through managing business communication and networking as part of this recovery story. Every morning, and I'm sure you all did so this morning, you look in the mirror as you get ready, brush your teeth and wash your face and put on your makeup. And maybe you've never asked yourself, is this the only use for the mirror? Or is there something else I can do with the mirror? The mirror should be the start of your day. It should be the start of the questions you ask yourself. Who are you? What is your business? Who knows your business? What is that unique selling point of your business? How can we know more about your business? We all go into business for different reasons. I'm into consultancy, and I'm doing something I have done most of my life. I enjoy it. I can even do it for free, as I've done many times for some clients, because I enjoy it. And that's the first thing. So I look in the mirror and I ask that question. Who am I? What is my business? And if you can't say what your business is, that becomes the first challenge in sharing with people about what you do. And if you think about it, in this very competitive time that we're in, I noticed one of the people introduced himself on the chat, Ubuntu Bees. Now, you are one of so many. How would you influence me to pick you rather than Mugahinga Bee honey that's made in Kisoro? What is that unique selling point? How have you positioned yourself to tell people about you? I like the fact that this series here encourages people, as Roland did at the beginning, to introduce themselves in the business for zoo. And Mubarak with his fumigation and cleaning business. It is so critical that you not only say what you do, but you give us that unique reason for you in business. What is it that differentiates you from your business? And who are you going to tell about it? And that's why it's been important to link the business communication with the networking. Roland mentioned I was an active and proud Rotarian. And that is true. And that's what I use as one of my networking tools. And you've got to think about who will be my ambassadors of message. Who is it that I can tell about my business that they will tell someone else who will tell someone else? How would I be able to position myself as a thought leader in the business that I do? Wherever you're located in this country, whatever the size of your business is, the smaller your business, the more aggressive we all have to be, because we run SMEs, and we don't have the budgets to advertise, to be on radio, to be in the paper. We can't be like MTN. We can't be like Airtel. We can't make that kind of noise that UBL and our breweries makes. We're a small business. We can't afford that money. But at the same time, we can't afford not to be in business. When COVID hit, it hit us, and there was no toolbox in which you say that when you have an epidemic, this is how your business survives. There was nothing we could reference. It was new to everybody. Our president was sitting there addressing us every day, wondering, now, how do I keep these people indoors? How do we contain that you don't have the medical capacity if the outbreak gets out of hand? And the few that we lost struggled to get oxygen. So you can imagine, all of a sudden, our daily bread, our daily earning was cut off. But those who stayed awake in the revolution, those who stayed awake in the revolution survived. And one good example is Cafe Javas, CJs. They were opened every day to receive us. And then the lockdown came. So their strategy changed from you come to us, let's come to you. And the number of riders each Cafe Javas has is a demonstration of how awake these guys are. They have enough riders to feed their customers. So we're sitting in our homes, we're tired of our cook, and we're so used to some of those delicacies from CJ's. So we send for it. And they have nice bags, and they show that everything is secure and clean. They come to you. Yet other restaurants went out of business because they had not positioned themselves to be ready and to be awake during the revolution. So coming back to networking, I hope that those of you who are frequent users of this facility have networked amongst yourselves. I hope that people have your contact, and I hope some of them have referred you to business opportunities. There is a networking group called BNI, and it grew much stronger after COVID, because all of a sudden people realized they needed a network of people who could introduce them, who could reference them. For over 100 and something years, Rotary has been the network of businesses. It was established in 1908 by 4 businessmen in Chicago who realized they needed a network. They needed to be talking on a regular basis. And so once a week, they met at a different person's house. That simple networking initiative has grown to a global movement of 1.4 million Rotarians, who, when you join, you're given a classification of your profession. Barak, your profession would be, your classification would be fumigation services. There is a young man I know who is in the same business as you. He fumigates my home. And I only met him because of meeting him in one of the Rotary clubs, and he stood up and introduced himself. I had never seen this person. I had never spoken to this person. But because he was a Rotarian, and because he introduced himself with his services, I then realized, actually, I need this person. And so his team came, and I was extremely impressed by the work they did. And I told other people about it. So that network, that weekly meeting, that wherever you go in this country, there is a Rotary Club. You don't know who is looking for what you have, and how that can help you sustain through difficult times. If the epidemic came again, the question you're going to ask your mirror tomorrow morning or later today, if you look in the mirror again, is that if COVID came back, would I survive? Have I changed the way I do business because of the risk that we all carry? I remember speaking to my partner during the lockdown, and all our clients, the clients we have, pay us a retainer fee. And I said to him, I think we're going to charge 50% of our retainer, because with my hand on my heart, we haven't been in position to serve these people as effectively as we could because of the restriction. That action endeared us to our clients without any request from them. We took a cut because we were looking beyond the immediate needs. The English have a wonderful expression: you count the pennies and miss the pounds. Sometimes we count the little things when you should be focused on the bigger things. So here's the thing. You've got to get yourself in a position of networking, of being able to network, of deliberately looking for a marketing team that you don't have to pay. A marketing team that will tell so many people that you have no access to about your business. That marketing team that do it out of the friendship they have with you or the common interest as we have in Rotary, they will do it for you. When you join sporting clubs, if you're in Barara, say, and you're a member of the Barara Sports Club, you're going to meet people there. You're going to meet people who will talk about you, talk about your business, because you'll be able to talk to them. So it is critical that you establish these networks. And in establishing these networks, it is critical that you have a clear message of what you do. And if possible, you must always get references, especially when you're a small business. There is an online, what do you call it? An online facility which reviews hotels. It's TripAdvisor. That's the name had skipped my mind. TripAdvisor. You want to go to stay in a hotel in Kabul, for instance, or in Tororo. You go into TripAdvisor and you type in the name of the hotel, Green Acres Tororo, and TripAdvisor will share with you comments people have made about that facility. Those comments will influence your decision. So once again, it's with the tight budgets SMEs have, with the fewer people that we're working with, it is imperative that you network effectively, you package your messaging effectively, so that you can get people to deliver the accurate message about who you are, what you do, and how you do it. So I'd like to end with a few thoughts. Business as usual has become business unusual. I think the way we were doing business, if I can coin the phrase, BC, not before Christ, but before COVID, has changed drastically. And the inconveniences that it creates by doing business unusual will actually insulate your business in this extremely competitive world. There are 15 million smartphones in our country. 15 million smartphones mean that there are 15 million people who are on Twitter, who are on Facebook, who are sharing TikTok videos, who are on WhatsApp groups. When you look in the mirror, ask yourself, how much of these assets have I used? Do I have a Twitter handle? Now, before any of you start saying, oh, well, you know, I don't understand those things. Your children understand them. We quarrel with our children for being on their phones all the time. Why fight that? Why not use that? Why not use your children to set up the social media handles? They will enjoy it because now you give them data. So they'll use your data to chat with 1 million friends, but they'll also do your work. And every organization needs to think about having what Sweden has. Sweden has a minister of the future. They have a ministry that is thinking about where the world is heading and where Sweden will be in this new world. Business is no longer as usual. We are living in a very fast-moving technological world. And that's why you see a lot of companies struggle with dealing with the notorious TikToks that come out about their service. Someone sits there. Yesterday, I read a tweet from a young lady who had a bad experience in Diani Reef Hotel. This is one of the better hotels in Mombasa. But one of the staff, a male member of the staff, used their access cards to enter this lady's room at night. And she woke up when she heard the noise and switched on the light, and he lied that he had come to deliver towels she had not asked for. That was probably a potential attack that saved her. But he's put this on social media. Diani is now sweating away. So it can be used negatively against your business, but you can use it positively for your business. And so think about that number, 15 million smartphones in this country. Are you using them to tell us about your business? Are you using the network that these telecom companies have given us and the government has enabled through its expansion? Are we using them to gossip and tell stories and share things on WhatsApp? How many times do you share your business on these WhatsApp groups? If you think about it, it's a great opportunity for us to utilize. Roland, I had 30 minutes to do this. I hope that we can use the rest of the time for the Q&A that you said we should have. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Henry. A lot of nuggets coming out of that conversation. For me, a couple of things hit me. The smaller the business, the more aggressive we have to be. The sheer number of cell phones, or rather of smartphones in the country currently, and how that is a platform. But also this appreciation that these networks exist, and it's possible that many of us are actually not practically part of them. And I feel like those are, it's something which, I mean, I can, at a very personal level, I have a number of friends who are very strong Rotary members, but I guess just understanding how this plays out in real life, in real business, is one of the things which personally I picked from the conversation today. So we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. Please just go ahead and you can post your question in the chat box, or you can put up your hand and ask a couple of questions to be able to do that, so that we can be able to get into our next phase. A number of people have shared what they do in the chat box. Thank you so much. We have quite a diversity of people in the room right now. I think I have a question here from Martin. Thanks, Henry. You're so inspiring for an SME. How can one easily set up a unique selling position effectively through communication and networks? And I think Martin I think runs the honey business, if I'm not mistaken. But how can someone set up a unique selling position and effectively through communication and networking? That's one of the questions which has come out. I see Paulson. Paulson spoke to us a couple of months ago. Thank you so much. You've shared with us what you do. Let me see if I can see a couple of hands. Harriet says, I'm inspired to get more aggressive in networking. I think, Henry, I'll possibly pose a couple of questions as we start this part. You talked about, there is a question which you raised, which I thought was very thought-provoking, of if COVID came back, would I survive? And you talked about the changes which you have had to make as a business. But I think my question to you is, how does an entrepreneur shift from looking at the inadequacies, what COVID did to many of our businesses? Customers are no longer walking into the door. Customers have possibly changed their behavior, and it seems like quite a load on an individual. But from your experience, what practically do you do to get customers back into your, especially customers who were once there, who seem to have changed, but now you want to get them back? How do you get those customers back into the room? Then a second question here would be, you talked about the smartphones and their capacity. And I feel like I know a couple of people have gone onto Twitter and they just can't find themselves in there. There's a lot going on and a lot of conversations, even just keeping up with what is happening. But for a business owner who wants to use these social media platforms effectively, both as an individual or getting someone who can help them do it, what tips would you give them so that they kind of enter that space and it is productive to their business? I know a couple of people who have said, I went to Twitter and I had to leave because it was a bit too much for me. But ideally, they are leaving the place where the customers are. But how do you create space for yourself in these platforms? You could answer a couple of those, and then we will continue with a couple of other questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roland. I'll start with Martin and the USP. Question to Martin would be, who makes the honey? And here's a possible position you would have. People are very emotionally driven towards the who makes it. Is it a community making it? Is it a women's group making it? Are the profits being shared with the community? So you become a honey maker for good and the impact that you're making within your community. So the fact that the way you process it becomes a unique selling point, no additives in it, it's pure deal that you've got here. But more importantly, the community is benefiting from it. I know that there is this honey being made in northern Uganda. Now, part of the initiative was started by UWA. UWA was dealing with elephants. Elephants move from the Murchison Falls area into Sudan every year at the same time, and they come back about the same time. Now, the elephants had one route, and in the process of their journey, they damaged food crops of the community along their route. And it became a big human-wildlife conflict issue. And when it was discovered that elephants do not like bees, the farming community was encouraged to move into beekeeping because that ensured the elephants did not go through their crops, but went round the beehives that they didn't like. So You can create your unique selling point by marketing what it is that you are doing and how you're doing it. I hope that that answers that question. Your next one was getting the customers back in the room. Again, to my earlier point about aggression, we cannot afford to tire. Many people moved on, they got different interests, and all of a sudden, they were not shopping or buying your product. So it is critical that you reinvent yourselves. I think the greatest reinventor is Omo. Omo has been the same thing as far as I'm concerned. It's white powder with blue little coloring. Some of the powder is blue, but every time you hear the new blue Omo, then you hear new blue Omo with powerful, then you hear powerful. It's constantly reinventing yourself. So getting your customers back in requires the same kind of new blue Omo approach. You need to remind people on who you are and what you're doing. In some cases, people offer discounting so that they can win the customers back. That, you know, we value your service. We'd like you to come back. We have a welcome discount offer of 15% on the, you know, the products you used to buy. That triggers something in our brain. There is nothing. People say, what's the most powerful word in the world? And somebody said, the word free is the most powerful. Free is so exciting. You immediately look again, it's free. I must go for it. So it's not, you don't have to give free, but you can discount to win back people, because once you get them to try, the confidence of trial. I know somebody in this call who were traveling up country together and were low on fuel. But he said, you know what, I'd rather be stuck, but I only buy fuel from Total or Shell. There's so many petrol stations that have opened up in this country now. But there are people who believe in the big two, the old ones that used to be here. Caltex used to be here, and Esso, and all those closed. And now we've got a whole series of petrol stations. If you go down Masaka Road, you won't believe how many you'll see. But there are people who will stick to the traditional ones because they are assured of quality. They're assured it's not going to be adulterated in any way. And the others, whether they did it or not, somebody spread a bad story. And so they have to win our hearts and minds by reassuring us. And that's why you find so many times a loudspeaker at the petrol station, people just ushering you in and stuff like that. So to win back your customers, you need to re-expose them to your products or to your service so that they can regain the confidence, the taste, the feel, and the appreciation for what you have. Onto social media and the ones who give up. Again, my advice is speak to people who do this, possibly as a living or out of interest. When you open a business Twitter account, it is critical that you utilize the Twitter boosting or the Facebook boosting facility. I believe it costs about $50 to boost your posts for a period of time. It's not very expensive, but there is a minimum that you have to spend. Now, what happens is that your tweet advertising your business keeps popping up. It keeps popping up. So more people get to see it, not just your followers. Because the frustration has been that You start a Twitter account, you have 100 followers, you're not getting traction, you're seeing other people's tweets, and that sort of frustrates people and takes them away. That's why I say, don't do something until you understand it and how you can use it, and get people who know it well to guide you so that you can set up this Twitter account, make this initial investment, and that investment will get the attention that you need for your products. Thank you, Roland. Those are the questions you've given.
Thanks, Henry. I think there are a couple of other questions and comments in the chat box. Siraj Basaja says, thank you, Rotarian Henry. He's into real estate with Ajabex consultancy, where they develop and sell and lease land. And I think one of the questions which he has here is looking at capital mobilization. This is one of the bigger challenges for many businesses, especially even after COVID. Many people were caught up in debt, but they are looking for new capital to capitalize this business. So what avenues can be used, and how can networking be able to help to raise capital for the business? That's the comment. I see Gabirano Wilberforce is passionate about tourism, just shares his contact. I think there is another comment here about debt management. And I think Emmanuel makes that comment. And I guess the question there is, if I find myself caught up in debt, and many people take the path of running away from the lender, and sometimes you have to break a connection to simply feel like you can be able to continue. But in terms of communicating, especially difficult messages, like communicating to your lender that you are going through a tough period, what thought process should an entrepreneur go through, and how should they be able to approach that process? Those are two questions I have in the chat box. I don't know whether there is any hand. If you want to make a comment or ask a question, please just raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to do that. Henry, in the meantime, please, you could answer those two. Possibly before you come, Henry, let me allow Dauda to ask a question. Dauda, please go ahead and ask your question. Dauda, Molinda, you can unmute and then you can ask. All right, I think Dauda is having a bit of trouble. Henry, I'll let you go and possibly give him an opportunity after you have shared with those two.
Okay, thank you very much. There's one I read which you didn't mention. Sadly, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about competition and cooperation. I think cooperation is critical. We can no longer be protective of what we're doing. We've got to collaborate. Collaboration is the only way we're going to survive, because it gives us more access to more people. So often, I mean, one business will not have all the skills in-house to deal with what the client requires. So if somebody comes to you, don't look like I have to win this, because every opportunity counts. And this person has a network that you don't have access to. They have got a job, but they need your skill. They need your product. Collaborate. I think Ugandans are always referred to as our failure to collaborate has been our biggest weakness. When we think about the way the Jews have collaborated, the way the Indian community collaborates, it's impossible to beat them. And so, which comes to the financing of the business, I think because of our lack of collaboration, we are going to the same source to finance our businesses. which is the biggest risk that we have. We end up all going to the banks. But if there were alternatives, if investment clubs were investing in people's business, the money would be cheaper. Our money is too expensive. And that's what drives so many into debt and as you said, unfortunately, into hiding. And I'll respond to that in a minute. So I think that moving forward, and Enterprise Uganda should lead in some of these initiatives of finding alternative financing for SMEs. We can't just be dependent on the banks that do the rules and set the amount you're going to pay. And if you can't, and the complication of raising this money, maybe our culture will change, because we all know of some young Indian who has come into this country. Before we know it, they are doing so well because they come together as a community and they support. And because of the risk on your reputation, you really perform so that you can be one day sitting at the table that is deciding to support another business. So it's very easy for them too. And when you think about us, we are not doing it. We may be proudly saying, I am from the Gulu city, or Barara city, Bali city. And when you think about it, we're just individuals in Gulu and Bali and Barara. We don't have a community doing business together, supporting each other the way other communities do. So financing our businesses is a challenge, and I hope that through initiatives like Enterprise Uganda and others, we'll be able to support, truly support SMEs, and not token support them, because these SMEs are the engine for employment across the country. On to dealing with that, I'm not into that that business. It's not something I've followed up a lot, but I'd just like to say that it's like anything else. If you do have an issue, the expression is a problem aired is a problem shared. And so it's critical that one uses that kind of mantra to address the challenges they have in their business. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thanks a lot, Henry. I'll give an opportunity to Martin. Martin, please ask your question. Make your comment.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy Henry has talked about the question I asked in the chat about cooperation versus competition. But then I wanted to know, he has clearly mentioned that in our culture, we are still lacking in cooperation. But me, the way I realize the trend of the future, we should be more focused on cooperation. Now, if it is a challenge in our culture, can he guide us? How can we easily build this culture of being more cooperative than being more competitive? Thank you very much. How can we best handle this so that it becomes a part of our culture, so that we focus more on cooperation than competition? Then another thing I wanted to know, how can we easily be more cooperative through networking and communication? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Martin, for that question. Dauda, please go ahead, unmute and ask your question. Melinda, Dauda. Right, Melinda is still having a bit of trouble. I think I saw a question in the chat on the same, possibly as you answer Martin's question, Henry. There is this question of the trust, and I think that's what Mubarak is saying. And I feel like a couple of entrepreneurs have had their fingers burnt in an attempt to say, how can we work together? How can we be able to cooperate? How do we create an effective kind of trust base? I think that's his question. I guess he was responding to the comments you made earlier about needing to be able to work together and the importance of that. I think that's the question which came through. I think one final question, possibly as you answer this bit, is when you talked about the fact that we can be able to work together to cooperate more as entrepreneurs. I think for me, one of the things which you could add to that conversation is what are the embedded values in these communities which seem to be, you talked about the Israelites, you talked about the Indian community. What exactly are the pillars that make their cooperation work? And possibly that will build on the question which Martin is asking of exactly how we get it done. What are those things that are making them win, and are they absent, or are we just not harnessing them as a society?
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Martin, for that question, for the questions. I'd like to ask the business community on call a question, but before that, I know it's not right to answer a question with a question, but I'm going to do that. How many of you, whatever business that you're doing, have deliberately thought about collaborating with a similar business in a different part of this country? Are we all so localized in our thinking? So that would be the first step. If the businesses in Mbarara are doing business in Mbarara and that part of the country, then we have no chance of growth. We have little chance of collaboration. And I know that it's been said, Uganda's business practices or whatever, it's also negative. I want to disagree on the fact that the few should not reflect the many. There are many, many honest, hardworking Ugandans. Unfortunately, we don't listen to good stories. We don't share good stories. We only share the negative ones. And the negative ones are the ones that get the platform. And then that removes the air out of the balloon and everybody gets deflated. I think that we need to challenge business leaders, we need to challenge political leaders to create that environment for collaboration. Recently, the Ministry of Investment and the Uganda Investment Authority opened up parks across the country, industrial parks. I don't know how many of us have thought about the utilization of the industrial parks and what opportunity the industrial parks offer. I think the most attractive industrial parks are the ones connected near the borders, because that is where we could find opportunities of collaboration, of being able to do bigger things than we're doing now, because the ones near the border offer huge markets. The one in Kisoro offers Rwanda and DRC. The one in Arua offers DRC and Southern Sudan. And the ones in Eastern Uganda offer Kenya and offer Tanzania. So there are opportunities, but sometimes we think, oh, those are for the big people. Those are not for us, because we're scared about the cost of doing something, instead of looking at it as who can we collaborate with? Now, in my introduction, allow me to deviate a bit and tell you an interesting story. When we were in Umeme, one of the biggest challenges we had was power theft. And power theft amongst the Senene catchers was huge. So we needed to deal with that issue. And Lord, as today is Thursday, I was shocked when I discovered that there is the Ensenene Catchers Association of Uganda. And the chairman came to Umeme and were able to address the power needs of these guys. So these guys collaborated and formed this association. How many of you are in association of your business? How many of you are utilizing those associations and contributing to them, leading them, being involved? Because you can start creating collaboration through those kind of associations. And then maybe together you can raise the resources that can help you set up and if I can use the beekeeping thing, the Ubuntu beekeeping thing, set up a bee manufacturing facility that will feed DRC. But if you're going to stay Ubuntu, and Mugahinga is going to stay Mugahinga, and Be Natural is going to stay Be Natural, and all those other honeys are going to be, maybe we are the issue. Maybe it is our short-termness or our jealousy to keep. I like my name, Ubuntu. I can't give that up for anyone. But if that is the rocket that will fire you into a new opportunity, maybe let's not be emotional. A good friend of mine, he is always selling his home, selling his house. And he told me, he says, it's just a house. I buy another one, sell this one. Somebody wants this one, I move on. And he's moved on. And he's able to do that. Yet most of us would say, no, this is the home my children grew up. This is home. We get emotional about things. Let's not be emotional about our business. If survival is going to be collaboration, it's going to be having to rename ourselves. So be it. Protea Hotels linked up with Marriott. And that's important for the next avenues that they want to create. So we can do those things. Airlines have merged. Big companies have merged. Who are you? You too can merge. Thank you.
Wow. Very deep cutting words there, especially on the question. I think when you engage with SMEs, you feel this strong sense of wanting to hold on to everything. And as you have rightly put it, it's possibly one of the things which holds back our collaboration journey, because all of us want to be the big fish, be it in a small pond, but we want to be the big fish in there. But also, I mean, Martin talked about the collaboration among his banks. We know that the Bankers Association will come back and fight as a group when they want things to be done. But as you have rightly put it, a number of entrepreneurs are not in their associations. They're not members of associations. You mentioned your profile that you were the past president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda. I imagine this brings together public relations professionals. I think I've seen something for human resource professionals, but in the business space, the associations haven't been fully strengthened. And it could be a bit from the demand side that the entrepreneurs themselves are not demanding to come together. Some people have argued that possibly it may be an environment issue. But I guess for me, everyone appreciates the importance of being able to work together. And it's something which which hasn't been done very well. So I just want to make you, just as we bring this to a close, I just wanted you to make a quick comment on how how associations succeed. You have the privilege of having led an association of members, but what are the keys that are important? I know that members should come in and be able to participate in those associations, but what are those keys that make an association succeed? You talked about Rotary, for example, which is over 100 years old, but how really can an entrepreneur who is joining an association, who is a leader of an association here, what are the tips you'd give them for them to be able to succeed?
Thank you very much. I think that you mentioned the Public Relations Association of Uganda. We are now in our, I think, 39th year, if not more. And it has been sustained from its extremely humbling beginnings, because it offers membership that network. Today, any of them can call any of us and seek advice and seek support at absolutely no cost, because they're members of the association. And when you demonstrate to people a return on investment for their membership, for their time, and maybe the membership fees, it encourages people to join the association. I think that since you started this business recovery talks, you're getting more and more people in, because people are joining, and they listen to Blaze, they listen to Gloria, they listen to some of the international videos that you share with them. That is a return on this 1 hour that we've been together. And so they walk away from it feeling enriched by what they have heard or the moments they have shared. So when you are involved in association, it is critical that one, as an individual, be involved. Don't be an inactive person, because you won't get any value for being in there. The more you are active, the more you are known. I'm very active in Rotary, and I've benefited from people referring businesses and opportunities to me, because I have been visible. Now, the difference between me and the other public relations consultant in the room could be just that. Maybe they're even better than me in doing the job, but because they're not visible, because they're introverts. Don't be shy, because shyness does not put food on the table. Don't live a life complaining about what could be, because you might complain in a bottle, and the next thing you know, you're heading back to the village, a drunkard that lived in Kampala saying, oh, these are my stories from the city. So again, to the thing I said earlier, are you ready for the next COVID? Or are you going to do business as usual? Oh, you know me, I'm a shy person. I'm not that kind of whatever person. That surrender will not put food on your table. And so you need to change. You need to be more active. You can still maintain your character, your reservedness and everything, but be effective in your contribution by being present in these meetings, so that everybody knows you can rely on Rosemary. She will be there. And you can rely that she'll make a contribution to you, and she'll say something to you, or she'll give you something. You can rely on that. So if you stay reserved, Rosemary, but she becomes somebody reliable, and somebody will always tell other people about. So associations are all about the people you put in there, the activity. In November this year, we have the East African Public Relations Conference we're holding it in Jinja. the new president of association, Tina Wamala. She has mobilized people, and every Tuesday there is a meeting, and you can see her leadership coming through. Now, if anybody said to me, we are thinking of recruiting a young lady called Tina Wamala, what do you think of her? Because of what I've seen here, it's going to be absolutely positive that I would recommend her to anybody because of what she's done. So being involved in associations and giving your time actually does support the growth of your own business. Thank you.
Wow, thanks a lot, Henry. It's been an honor having you on the show today. A lot of powerful nuggets which have come out here. The last one being what you have just said, that if you have to be involved, you have to be present, you have to kind of put an effort into this group you want. And when people see that, they are very willing to say, you know what, this is the right person for the job. We have had a great time. I'll give you just a couple of minutes to just share with us your final remarks, and then we can wrap up the session.
Thank you very much, Roland. And I would like once again to appreciate Enterprise Uganda and the team there, yourself and Derek and Rosemary, for inviting me to share my thoughts this morning with a diverse group of entrepreneurs. So my last message is, don't forget what I said about the mirror. Use the mirror. It's not just for making you look good. It's to make you ask yourself those tough questions in the privacy of your bathroom. Speak to yourself and just get out and be double energetic in terms of getting food on the table, getting the business a success, and enjoying what you're doing, because you can only get value by continuously changing. And don't forget that you have 15 million plus gadgets in this country that can tell us about who you are and what you do. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Henry. It's been an honor having you on the show. The show is recorded and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. Someone asked whether we'll share this. Yes, we will share it with those who have attended the session, but it's also available on our YouTube channel. If you actually want to watch one of the sessions we had in the past, you can simply go to our YouTube channel. Ask Derek, who runs our back office, to just post the link to the YouTube channel. I mentioned earlier, Blaze was on the call. She has been here during this session, so you would be able to kind of find what she shared on and keep the message going. As Henry has rightly put it, let's keep asking ourselves, how can we be better? Tough questions, and they're never straightforward questions, but it's a question we need to constantly keep asking. That yearning to get better, that yearning to keep pushing. It is always an honor having each and every one of you. Henry, thank you so much for sharing your morning with us and sharing your heart with us during the Business Recovery Series. To all of you, the entrepreneurs on the call, we'll be back next Thursday. But a big thank you for taking off time to learn, to grow. Tell a friend what you have learned, challenge them, but most importantly, use these ideas in your business so that we can be able to recover stronger and build the businesses that can transform this nation. Thank you so much and have a blessed rest of the day.